Okay, it's time for Creepypasta Friday again, where I just read a random, mostly video game related creepypasta that I just randomly picked, and yeah, that's kind of it. And I'm not gonna try to be like with a deep voice and everything like that. I can change my voice, so I'm just gonna read this, and I will talk about it, what I think about it. Right? That's what you're supposed to do, kind of, I guess. I mean, other people just read it out loud, but I kind of want to give my own master to the opinion of myself. That's what Germans say. When you give your master to something, it means like you're giving your opinion on something. Maybe Americans also say mustard. I mean, you can also replace it with ketchup or mayonnaise or barbecue sauce and every other kind of sauce. But this one is called Happiness for Sale, which is related to Zelda and probably also to the happy sales masked man that appears in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, because that was like the picture, and there's also a picture soon because I scrolled down because I didn't want to have like a 20-page one. This one looked fine in length. Let me just start it. A man came into town today, a very strange man. He looked to be in his 30s, walking with a hunched bag with a load of items upon it. He had thinning red hair, oh that's kinda bad, balding is always bad, and tannish skin, as well as an almost skeleton-like frame. He was quite small really. It was the big grin on his face that got to me. It was such a large smile, almost inhumanly big. Its edges seemed to stretch beyond his cheekbones and into his eyes. I mean, that seems pretty nice, right? I'm hearing voices. Why am I hearing voices? Am I getting paranoid? Well, hopefully no one is breaking into my home. I think it was my washing machine that just beeped and told me it's finished. He strolled into town with that joyful expression on his face, speaking in almost... The thing is, I have like... In front of my monitor, there's like a line that goes down because it's kind of broken. So I thought, what is the word? Owl nose? But it's almost. But anyways, speaking in almost whispers to children who were lined along the road. The children would stare, emotionless as he whispered to them. I couldn't make out what he was saying from the distance, so I sat on the centerpieces in the town square, waiting for him to cross my path. I was genuinely terrified, to be honest, but I didn't know why. Yet, even still, I wanted to wait for him. The thing is, he looked creepy. You're already saying he looked creepy, so obviously you were kind of weirded out because he looked weird to you. I waited for him. I couldn't explain this curiosity, but it had a hold on me that would not be released until I spoke to the eerie man. He slowly began approaching me. The soft thudding of his footsteps was barely audible over the dull roar in the square. Yet at the same time I could hear it plainly as anything else when I waited in a slight panic for him to reach me. He stopped in front of me, still not facing me. I looked up to catch his face. He stared forward and then slowly turned towards me. He never opened his eyes, and his smile never disappeared from his face. Turning his head to me, the thing is, it's almost 1 a.m. because I want to read these while I'm really, sleep deprived, so they make me scared, because the more sleep deprived you are, the more scary they should be. Turning his head to me, he opened one eye and stared directly at me with it. I slumped down. An incredible fear that I had never felt hit me like a wave. He didn't say a word. He only stared into my eyes with the hawk eye he had opened. And well, nice eyes, I hope at least. I like looking at someone's eyes, not in person because that's kind of awkward and weird, even though your parents probably always told you to keep eye contact with the person you're talking to, but sometimes you just kind of let go of that because it's awkward. I completely lost track of reality. The sounds of the town square around me faded away and I became immersed in an eerie silence that seemed deafening. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. Nothing would move. My body seemed frozen to the bricks I was sitting on. The thing is, maybe you should have picked a bench, because on a bench you probably wouldn't have felt being so scared, but sitting on the ground is not that nice. The smile felt like it was looking at me. Almost like there was the true man behind it, not the eyes. I can't explain it, but to put it the best I can, the smile seemed ageless, eternal. It echoed in my mind into infinity. My body began leaning away from him. Slowly, his head turned back to face the road, and he began to go his way again. I was shaking violently. I felt like I could throw up. As he walked off, I realized that there were masks on his back. He must have been a mask collector of sorts. And like I said, he's the happy mask salesman for Majora's Mask. Because the thing is, there's tons of theories about him, and I really would love him showing up again in a Zelda game. But, that's probably very not happening. That night I couldn't sleep. All I could think about was the meeting with him in the square. He didn't say anything, but I felt as if he completely disemboweled me with his glance. That sounds kinda hot in a way. I mean, I hope I'm not developing a fetish for this. His piercing eye. I didn't know what it was, but that man was not human. No, he was something else. Something very sinister. That ageless feeling wouldn't go away either, as if he was some sort of ancient demon, wandering the earth from city to city, town to town. Why though? I wanted to know more. I was becoming obsessed with the very thing that terrified more than anything else, or shouldn't it be like that terrified me more than anything else? Tomorrow, I would search for him and see if he was in town. I had honestly hoped he had left, yet if he hadn't, I could look more for him. The next day, I ate breakfast and went to the square. I saw a small group of people gathered around a small vacant building in the corner. I went over to see him. The demon, standing in front of everyone. He had his hands together and was speaking about how he was opening his happy masked shop here in the square. He preached and preached, come on, come all, to the crowd. They all seemed mesmerized by his words. Finally, he finished and headed inside the building, the tiny building. A small sign next to it read, Happy Mask Shop, Happy Mask Shop. Happiness is just a mask away. The thing is, this is obviously like a deeper thing about our society, how we all put masks on, and we do that without even realizing it, right? Like every time you talk to a person, you have a different mask on. Like some people like to pretend that you have the same mask on for everyone, like you don't change your personality. But that's kind of wrong. I think everyone kind of changes their personality depending on who they talk to. If I talk to my mom, I talk differently than if I would talk to someone else. The thing is, this playlist is a little bit really quiet, so I'm gonna make this a little bit more loud. So the thing is, I have captured my Chrome, so now you will see the playlist thing, so it will be fine. I shuddered. What was so scary about this man? I had to know more, so I ran inside. There was already a few people in there, yet it was silent. No one was talking. What was going on? Were they negotiating something? I saw a man, a child next to him, and a woman behind him. Yet none of them were saying anything. They were only staring at the happy masked man. He nodded his head, as if they had reached some silent agreement, and handed 2 masks to the man and child. They turned and walked out. As they passed, I saw a glazed look in their eyes, as if they were completely out of it. The woman was out just behind them, carrying another mask. Then it was me. I was all alone with him. The thing is, I would kind of assume that he puts like the souls of those people into his own mask, and that's how he gives his mask some kind of personality, or he sucks out the personality onto the mask, something like that. Maybe. That's my theory right now. He cocked his head, maintaining his silence. He wanted me to speak, so I did, asking him about his shop, as well as where he came from. Silence. He didn't say anything. He just kept grinning. I was beginning to become irritated, yet simultaneously more frightened too. I stepped back towards the door, asking him to answer me. Just then a child walked in. It was a boy, not over 5 years old. He walked up to the happy masked man. The man stood there and hunched over to the boy. The boy held out his hands, expecting a mask perhaps. The happy masked man opened his eyes, both of them, and stared the most evil glare I had ever seen at the child. I stepped back again, almost tripping as I reached for the doorknob. To my sheer terror, the man grabbed the boy by the neck and picked him off the ground. I could hear horrific screeches of terror coming from the boy's throat. He was at least 8 feet off the ground. 8 feet? Like, as a European, I would have to Google now how much 8 feet is. Like, I know 6 feet. Like, is the happy masked man really that tall that he could lift someone up like 8 feet into the, you know? Just then, the salesman's mouth began opening. Still moaning, of course. It grew wide and wide. Is he gonna eat him? And wider until it was at least a foot wide. I don't know if that humanly is possible. I could hear his jaw snapping as it opened. Horrible and... Wait. I had to reset something real quick. Okay. Horrible and inhuman sounds began from him as he raised the child higher. Then, all of a sudden, the child was halfway down the salesman's throat. Did I got tricked into reading a war story? This can't be it, right? And why is it eating the child? What about the other people? Why didn't it eat the other child? Why is it picking this child in particular? I screamed as I could see the boy's leg kicking, and it's like a snake cat, I guess. Why? I don't know why I'm laughing. Kicking in the salesman's mouth. Slowly but surely, they slid down and disappeared. The boy was gone. What about his tummy? Is he maybe kicking one in his tummy? Did he just disappear? Like, what changed to his tummy? Shouldn't he describe that? If it's like fetishy, he should describe what happened to the tummy, right? Is he pregnant now? I began crying hysterically, yet I still couldn't move. He turned to me, his mouth still hanging wide open. He then put his hands to his face. A strange Glow began to appear around his hands. Slowly, he peeled his hands away from his face. A repulsive stretching sound could be heard as skin appeared to be getting pulled off. He arched his back farther and farther till his hands were separated from his face by a clump of flesh at least 2 feet long. This man, no, this thing, was an absolute monster. The flesh tore off, leaving the same grinning face. He stood there with a mass of skin in his hands. Slowly the skin began molding and contorting. I backed into the corner. What the hell was going on? Before I knew it, the skin had turned into a small shape in his hands. He held his hands out, showing me his new oh, he turned him into a mass by eating him. I don't know if that was really that necessary, really, to add to the story, but it was the child's face. He made a mask out of flesh. The horror hit me and I began vomiting into my lap. Kinda hot. I heard a small chuckle coming from the salesman. No, I had to get out of here. I got up and went for the door. Upon grabbing the doorknob, I heard one more thing. Do you want a mask, my boy? I mean, if he would say yes, he would probably eat us. So if you like war, maybe you would say yes. If you do not enjoy war, please just get out and maybe, you know, tell the local security guards and maybe the police what happened here. Tears were streaming down my cheeks as I was sobbing and running across the town square. I could hear people gasping and shrieking as I ran by. I'm sure it was a poor sight, a child covered in blood and vomit. I didn't care though. That thing in there was a demon. I went to my house and straight to my room. You are supposed to kinda tell people that he's eating people. Well, shouldn't you kinda do something about that? Both of my parents were out. I sat there for what must have been hours, walking back and forth and covered in filth. Why don't you take a shower? Maybe something like that? I don't know. I would kind of think I'm kind of also safe in the bathroom. I mean, I have a lock on my door, but I don't really use it. I don't even know where the key is, but if I'm in the bathroom, you can easily lock it because everyone can lock the bathroom. Maybe not back in ancient Hyrule, I guess. Finally, I got up and looked out the window. The small building was still there, but no one was going into it. The sign was gone. To this day, I have no idea what happened or what I experienced. I never told anyone because I know no one will believe me. I washed myself and tried to continue my life as normal after that day. The happy mask salesman was gone. I even asked around town and people all claimed they either had no idea what I was talking about or they weren't sure. Dead ends were everywhere. Had it been a dream? No. I would not make up something like that. And I pity all those who may experience him in the future. That monster, that thing. May the gods protect all who come into his path. You could have protected people. You could have been the guy who protects people who, by telling people, hey, this guy inside of there, let's all storm inside and kill this motherfucker. You let him get away because obviously you're a child. As a child, you don't do the most smartest thing, right? Like as a child, you would kind of run away instead of going to the police and do what you should do. But still. May the gods protect all who come into his path. It's been a few years now. A lot has happened since then, but he has never come back, and I dread the day more than anything when he may. If he does, I will be sure to stay clear. If you see a man in your hometown claiming to sell masks, a man who looks off and seems to be hiding something sinister, stay away from him. He isn't human. Whatever it is. It is the very essence of evil itself. That's the story. And in one way, that was kind of neat, I would say. You know, it wasn't like some kind... Most of these creepypasta stories would go into a game and they would tell the story from the perspective of someone who bought the game and is playing the game. Like, imagine if you would play the game and the happy masked salesman would draw a fucking kid in front of you. You would kind of write a story like, oh, I bought a cross copy and stuff like that. But this person who wrote the story, do they have names here? I don't think they do, because this seems also to be, I don't know, an older one maybe. So he's not sourced, but this person actually kinda, yo boy Larry, bad. This person actually kinda took himself into the game itself. He didn't just vote like curse copy who bought it on the flea market. He actually voted from a person that's inside the game, which is kinda neat. I like that too, that kind of perspective, because it's not a cursed game kind of story. It's more like from the real life Hyrule that we would experience if we would live there. And you know, in a way, that was kind of neat. It was not more, not less. In a way, it was a little bit too much happy mask man like, and the monster, the thing. It kind of, I kind of felt the diversity of the words you used for him could have been better. And if that would have been like that, that would have been better, obviously. My brain is kind of mushy today. But I would say this was kind of decent. Like, I don't know why it had to be eaten. Like, I would kind of think, like, I think it went a little bit too much into the shock thing, where it's like, oh, he has to eat the people to turn the mask, instead of just maybe. The thing is, if I would have witnessed, I would have been like, kind of like Texas Chainsaw. I would have said, like, oh, he ripped off the skin of the face kind of thing. I wouldn't, go like, oh, he ate him. And if I would have a war fetish, I would have kind of written a story in a way where the heavy mask salesman would have eaten us, but that maybe would give away too much of your fetish. So this way you can kind of say, hey, yeah, maybe it's my fetish, but maybe it also is my fetish. So in a way, we don't know if the creator of the story has a war fetish or not. But aside from that, I like the idea that you are not some special person who bought a cursed copy, but just inside the game yourself in a way. And that was pretty okay. I kind of expected worse. The second I saw the war, I was like, I got a boner, I gotta be honest. But with those words, I will leave you for the night, and hopefully you won't poo your pants. Because I just did. Not. Good night. Happy night. The thing is, I shouldn't say happy night. Why, that wouldn't fit it. Like, I should say, haha, have some good nightmares. But I don't wish nightmares on anyone. That's kind of mean. And I don't want to be mean. So, instead of having nightmares, don't have them. Have good nightmares. Like, maybe a nightmare like maybe you're marrying and you're having a bad divorce. Something like that. Which is a nightmare, but a cute kind of nightmare. Good night.